Welcome back to the Deb Mae Show. I'm Deborah Mae Bakken with Mae Counseling. We have a part 2 today of our show. Wonderful guest Danielle Egnew has been kind enough to join us. Due to the miracle of television, we were going to tape part 2 right after part 1, but we both had other commitments. So we're in the part 2, just a little bit different clothing, etc. But I'm so glad that you could join us. Danielle, thank you so much for coming back. I'm so excited.
Me too. This is awesome. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you for being here. Okay, I've had so many questions from friends and family that saw the little vignette, and also it aired on Sunday, though I didn't get to see it. I was out of town. But millions of questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. This is awesome.
Okay, my first question, though. You're a psychic, and my shirt was like out to here, and nobody told the sister that her shirt was huge. Why? I mean,
well, okay,
Roberta,
now see my viewpoint, of course, being in the present with you. You looked great last week.
Oh, it's so funny though. I'm teasing you, of course.
Right,
but
right.
I was saying this with my friends. They're like, Deb, your shirt, you know, and then they said, oh, and lose the scarf. So I was
your
a little
scarf
bitter.
is cool. Come on,
like
your scarf is your statement. It's like my hair. It's
like
your
my
thing.
Scarf. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Now that that's out.
Now that we've covered the fashion.
Covered the important thing.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so many questions. Let's start with, how many angels are there? You talked about that I had 3 that were behind me or came forward, one of which was the angel of higher functioning, which that's fantastic. I hope that person thing is with me all the time.
Exactly, I hear you.
How many are there? How could you give me a list, a few of them?
You know, as far as how many there are,
yes.
There are literally, just like human beings, there are millions of them. There are millions of them. And the fact of the matter is, you may have several hundred that help you in a day. Usually they will represent in 2 to 3s with me personally. I've always figured that was because of my limitation in being able to track these entities. I figured if you have too many people talking to you, it's hard to hear them all. And the angel who walks with your higher functions, it's always an angel that comes through and represents, actually that angel's right there for you today, that represents, how you doing? That represents how you think. There's an angel that will represent your heart. Now, again, maybe all of these angels represent every single function you have, and maybe for the purposes of communicating with me, they break it up to keep everything separate. That would make a lot of sense to me just because of how they are. Angelic life is extremely linear. We think of angels as these Roma Downey, touched by an angel creatures, and they can be very loving and very sweet, but you got to remember, before we were ever on the earth, there were angels, and they're referred to in the Christian Bible as the original sons of God, actually. So they've been around a long time, and before they were helping us, and we personified them as these puffy little fluffy things, what they actually were the original special forces. They are fierce. They would eradicate stuff that needed eradicating. They would help raise stuff that needed done. So we need to remember that our angelic life is not just this, oh, let me just help you, darling. Oh, God loves you with your problem that you're having there. I mean, they'll actually get in and do some real down and dirty heavy lifting, and they can be very terrifying also.
How so?
They're very powerful beings. They are incredibly powerful. They're like a nuclear reactor packed into about 15 feet. They are just pure power.
There's a height, there's a form.
There is a height and a form. It's brilliant light. It looks like white light to me, and perhaps other people see them differently. They don't oftentimes personify themselves unless they have to pop down and do a little job. If they show up as this 15-foot tall, brilliant white nuclear reactor, people tend to get a little wigged out.
Right.
People get wigged out. So they'll put on a human form temporarily to say, hey, we need some help with this. Can you do this? And if you note that angels in the Bible, they're kind of to the point. They're not really lovey, fluffy, huggy people. They're kind of like, here's the deal. God wants you to do this. Get on it. It's more like they remind me more of military if you take the fighty aspect out.
Really?
How they work, yeah.
Okay, you said they sometimes don a human form to you, to those of us, like are there some around us in human form?
There will be if they need to do a job.
Really?
It's fascinating to me. Why the heck, oh, this kills me. Why people think that all of these stories about angelic life coming to earth and helping people only happened back in the Old Testament and New Testament, that's a little silly. Angels will come down here and, if you will, I call it zipping up a person suit. They'll zip up a flesh suit, and they will assist someone, and then they're out. And they'll do that if that individual's timeline, if their present is going to be deeply impacted in a way that's not for their highest good. They will avert great disasters. They will help people out. They don't oftentimes zip up a person's suit. That takes a lot of energy. But they will manifest a physical form, come do what they need to do, and get the heck out of Dodge. Yeah, that still happens.
And again, and we spoke of that earlier, and I was trying to kind of put all that together on the show and prior for someone's greater good. So they will intervene.
They will
all
intervene.
All of this is for the greater good of that person and for humanity. So their job is to, like you said, they're air traffic control, but their job is to have the path go as smoothly and fortuitously as possible.
Absolutely. And they can't, here's the thing about angels, is they cannot affect our free will. Our free will has got to be, I know. I'd like some motivation, please. Yes.
Please, thank you.
But our free will is a gift from creation. That's a gift from God. And so they're not going to mess around with that. What they'll do is they will intercede if there is perhaps something that's going to happen to us that isn't necessarily to our good or to the greater good of the whole. And this could be a whole several series discussion on how angelic life works with people. These are super surface level cliff notes here.
Yes. But that's, I like that idea. You know, there are times, some people say, and I've had experiences where it was as if I would have left a minute sooner.
Yes.
I would have been in the middle of that, or...
Exactly. Exactly. And that is where our angelic life will intercede for us.
Oh, my goodness. So at times you may see someone who's a person looking as a human being, but perhaps that's an angel, and then they're out of your life, and
you can usually tell the people, I use that term loosely, that are angelic or angels. Actually, I'm going to preface this comment by something. Okay. There's a very popular movement right now that refers to human beings as earth angels. And I do believe that we can be an angel to anybody.
Certainly.
You can help anybody out. What I'm referring to is what's referred to in the Old Testament, Elohim. These are angels that personify themselves for a moment and then they're gone. So they're not born into a human body or whatever. Okay. And that would be the difference in an earth angel and what we're discussing here. We're talking about angels, not people with angelic behavior.
Right.
And if you ever really do meet an angel, you will know because they don't feel like people. They have a great peace around them, but you're a little off edge about them because they don't vibrate like a person. Usually they have eyes that will really engage you, and you pay like incredible attention to what they're saying, and you're not quite sure why. And then they're gone, and you generally can't even remember watching them leave. There's all kinds of accounts of this online if people Google angel intercedence or angels showing up.
My goodness. Okay. So do they, when you see them now, for instance, is someone behind me now?
Oh yeah, you've always got your group. You've always got your three.
So they're always there. So if you try to tune in, you see angels behind people or with people.
Yes, they will come forward according to the person's questions or needs.
Well, at this point, if I'm just speaking though, they just kind of hang back.
But they just chill.
Okay.
Yeah.
They appear as a body of light, as a form of light?
To me, they appear as enormous bodies of light that are so powerful. Imagine getting an X-ray, okay, and the X-ray tech stands behind that wall right there. So the X-ray tech is not irradiated because the wall is packed with lead. And the ethers, or what we call ethers in my line of work, are actually like baffles between here and the spiritual universe. Angels will stand behind several ethers to not fry somebody. They are so powerful. So when I'm speaking to them, they're definitely speaking with me, or to me rather, yet they're not standing right behind you as a human spirit would come way forward. Angelic life will hang back, but they are so powerful that you can't help but hear what they have to say. And they do that for my benefit and for yours, because again, there are physics involved. These things would fry us like a crispy if they just came out of the ethers.
My goodness.
They're very powerful beings.
Okay, and you mentioned human spirit. After the show, I looked back and you talked about that when we die, we become spirit guides.
Yes, we can.
And also, you just mentioned human spirits. Can you talk a little bit about that type of thing?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
When we die, we are not obligated to come and be someone's spirit guide. We could go to the party barge in the sky, the dimension that is heaven, and just be with creation and be with our family members. If we choose to help someone else, and many times we do choose to help other people, then we would, if you will, incarnate as a spirit guide for a while. We're still on the other side. We're still hanging out with everybody over there, yet we will help people from a spiritual perspective in that way. That is different than an angel. We don't die and become an angel. That's like a dog is born a dog, a cat is born a cat. Spiritually, we are what we are.
Okay, if we do come back as a spirit guide, or
if we choose to.
If we choose to. I'm trying to, I guess, formulate a question here. Does that mean that we are invisible to that person, but perhaps could they be aware of our presence at times?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I have clients coming into me all the time that say, I feel my mother around me. She passed away 2 years ago. Or I feel my brother or my husband or my wife. This is very common. Just because we die, guys, just because we lose this, we're not dead. We just aren't here. And I get this message from crossed over people all the time when I'm speaking with their loved one who is so deeply bereaved because of their loss. And they will say things like, will you tell them I'm not dead, I'm just not here? Or will you tell them that I'm still alive? I'm just not living there right now. And that's the way they pass it on to people. So yeah, they will come forward. They're not going to be watching people in the shower. I mean, they're not creepers.
Right.
Yet we can still feel them because of the spiritual connection that we have with the spirit realm. We feel our angels as well. It's just that the angels go through a lot to make sure that that we don't feel them like we would a spirit guide, because their job is to support our choices, not affect our choices.
Right. And a spirit guide, though, is here to, you said the job of the angels is to support our choices?
Not to support our choices rather than affect our choices.
And the spirit guide's purpose is?
Will oftentimes be more to emotionally relate with us, to give us emotional support so that we can go ahead and make different choices. Because angels aren't people, they don't come from the same emotional culture that we do.
Right.
So, but our human folks did. They were people. They know what it's like to live on the earth and go through the ups and downs and all the weirdness. So we do have human guides that will assist us with emotional issues. We have angelic guides, if you will, that will help us with strategy issues, with life path issues. We are so cared for.
Oh, that's amazing. I said amazing many times on the last show as well. So if I say it again, I had all this critique this weekend. It was wonderful. No, in love.
Right.
But if I say it again, please, alert me, and I'll try to say something fantastic or
outstanding.
Thank you. Yes, something. Where's my angel with the higher function?
Likes the word amazing. My go-to word on television, I do a lot of this in media, a lot of psychic and medium work on television, and I had to watch the word unbelievable, because I truly felt it was unbelievable what I was looking at.
Speaking of which, with all the work that you've done, have you ever done any forensic psychic work?
Yes, I have. I have donated my time before to a wonderful organization, and in fact, I highly recommend that if anybody wants to donate today, going to a website called Find Me. It's findme2.com, and I would recommend that people go there. There are over 100 psychics and law enforcement, all the way from police officers to FBI, that we donate our time to help find missing persons.
Oh my goodness.
And I've done a lot of donation, and I still do a lot of donation in that area.
I thought that you had, and we hadn't brought that up. What a gift.
Well,
what a gift.
If you can help track energy signatures, which is a big part of what this is, and you can bring closure to people, or help police officers find evidence that they then could use in a court of law, because there's no such thing as psychic evidence. That's ridiculous. The job of someone like me would be to point the law enforcement officials to something they could tangibly find and bring into the crime investigation process. And I have been very blessed in the past to be able to do that. It's difficult work. Emotionally,
imagine.
when you're dealing with child abduction, and a lot of times it has to do with family members, and it just gets so weird. But it's very gratifying work to watch the families come together around the resolution of crimes that are able to be solved.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't take credit for that. I put that on the law enforcement officials. I am
Right.
part of a process of that. The law enforcement officials solve the crimes. We give puzzle pieces that are helpful for them.
That's outstanding, truly. It's amazing, unbelievable, but it's outstanding. I appreciate your giving in that manner.
Thank you.
Speaking of which, one of the questions that I had and some family members had is, and I have this actually in therapy quite a bit, what do you recommend for people who are wanting to forgive others who have harmed them and also forgive themselves if they have harmed others? I get that quite a bit, especially with trauma victims, and sometimes they re-traumatize others. Or just, how do I forgive my abuser, for instance?
Wow, what an amazing question.
Yeah, it's a deep one, and I don't mean to be flippant about it, but is there something you can help with to give someone that moment of I talk about peace and love and the light that you carry, and if you're drowning in sorrow, if you're drowning in hatred, if you're drowning in anger, that light is not shining as brightly as it could. What do you tell people when it comes to forgiveness and to darkness, dark behavior?
You know, I'm glad you asked that. From my perspective, clearly I'm not a therapist. From my perspective of how this all looks, we choose different lessons in life. When we come in as a soul, you come into this life, and this is like college, and say I'm going to choose Emotional Stability 101, and I'm going to choose Getting Over Internal Fears 101, and we graduate in our experiences. Now, this is not to say that anyone ever deserves to be victimized or calls in victimization. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
If a person finds that they are in a position of being victimized, there are a couple of tools just from a spiritual perspective that I would talk about here.
Okay.
And one of them is there is a physical weight, a physics to darkness. Dark and light are energy signatures. They really are. And darkness is actually a lot less dense than light. It would take 1 teaspoon of light to be the same weight, for instance, as 3 boulders of dark. Light is very intense. And so when we're carrying all of that darkness and that pain, it takes so many more boulders that we've got to incorporate into ourself, and that takes a lot of the physical space up in our being. And what I will often convey to people is that if you can see that darkness, it's a memory of something that happened. It's like dragging along a sled with a carabiner that has great weight. And so what I often tell people is just reach in and find where that is and unhook that carabiner. Unhooking that carabiner does not mean forgetting what happened to you. It doesn't mean forgiving the person for what happened. It means that you are no longer feeling obligated to carry the weight that laid you down. And darkness is real. It is real. And there are many schools of thought out there, especially for the pastoral field. There are many people who believe that darkness is not real and there's only light. And actually, I tell people, focus on the light, focus on the light. You know, always focus on the light.
Definitely.
However, there is darkness. Everything has a balance. And darkness has a job. And its job is to eat pain out of the ethers. And like sharks eating pain out of the ocean, a bloody fish out of the ocean. So when people are encountering darkness in the self, the darkness comes when we have a relationship with it. And it's not that we want to relate with it. We may be going through a lot of pain. It comes around like a shark, and we're giving off this gaseous pain out into the ethers, and it eats it out of the ethers, and it moves on. However, just like any predator, it's going to go around a food source. So if we have been struggling with dark things over and over, and we're putting out yucky clouds, this is attracting a certain, if you will, a parasite. Not to say you can't get rid of it, because you absolutely can, in a heartbeat. Yet if people are carrying grief and how to forgive the self or forgive another person, just simply undo that carabiner, unclick it. Because as we come out of our relationship with needing to carry the burdens of the past in order to justify what happened, then we release all of that gaseous content out into the ethers that those predators would eat, and they'll stay with the sled back there, and the person can progress. And it's a matter of forgiveness has to do with release. And again, it does not mean that person...
Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. Does not mean that something atrocious did not happen to you and that you bear a scar or there's healing that's needed. But you have to allow yourself to. Hard to do sometimes. It's
hard to do, especially when people feel that staying connected to that traumatic event is the only thing holding the victimizer accountable.
Yes.
And I will tell everybody, you guys.
I'm so glad you mentioned this. Yes, please.
Well, and this is just from an energetic perspective, but I see this. All energies have a stamp. And people will hang on to what happened to them because they feel that they are the justice bringer or the only person bringing accountability to that individual. Fact is, you guys, and really, cause and effect, karma, we cannot, it's a very real thing. We cannot get away from what we do. In other words, if I gravely mistreat you or children or whatever, I will cosmically, what I do comes back to me. And that is a universal law for all people. So the people who've been victimized don't feel, I hope they don't feel like they have to continue to bear the pain, to hold the individual that victimized them accountable.
Because that will come about.
Oh, good God, yes. I watch it all the time. I watch it all the time in my practice.
And conversely, though, I have people that have come to me after a lifetime or a series of events or even one event where they feel terribly guilty for something that they've done. And we talk about it's your truth, own your truth, it has happened. Now what do you do to forgive yourself, be compassionate to yourself, be compassionate to your victim if you can, or compassionate, bring your light and compassion to others as a way to spread more light instead of the darkness that you're walking around carrying. Because not only will that not help you, that won't help anybody else in your path.
Well, absolutely.
So it will just, it'll beget more darkness instead of allowing that forgiveness, allowing yourself to heal, allowing yourself to be compassionate, make amends where you can, and move forward.
Well, you hit on a very powerful point here. To forgive the self is also to untether the carabiner that you are dragging of the past. And people need to remember, if we could do better in the moment, we would. If we could do emotionally and spiritually and physically better. Now, again, I'm not speaking from a psychological perspective, from the perspective of spiritual lessons. We might have come in. Maybe we needed to learn the lesson of victimizing to learn compassion. Maybe we needed to learn the lesson of detachment. And then when we recognize, oh my God, I have gravely misstepped here, that is actually a measure of growth.
Indeed.
So to be able to forgive the self is to also be able to release that sled with big boulders of dark on it that you're carrying. Because if we can't release the past, then we don't have any way to give this growth legs in this spiritual incarnation, and that's what you're here to do. If the light goes on over your head and you've done rotten things in the past and you correct your behavior right now, step into the identity of the person who understands this compassion and this light bulb. Otherwise, the individual negates the awareness.
And awareness to me, when I'm speaking with clients, is yes, this occurred. It is truth. Own the truth. You know, we may try to avoid it. We may try to change it within ourselves. It is what it is, as unfortunate as it can be. But that allows you also to let go of maybe one boulder. You know, it's hard for people sometimes, like, if I let go of the whole sled, what happens?
Oh, who am I? That's what I just heard. Is what I heard from, again, because I was asking, what would this be in relation to? I was asking your angels, and they said, the common question is, who am I, if not the oppressor, if not the victimizer? I must recreate the self. And we have such fear in recreating the self. And rather than recreating the self, how about just being with who we are? And being okay that feels a little wobbly and a little strange, and we may not have a playbook for that.
And being compassionate to that.
Absolutely.
I have to do it right. I have to be perfect. Everything has to be okay.
No.
My goodness, no. It's work from where you are. Anytime someone walks into my office, I talk about you're at the very right place to begin, right here, right now, as you are. What a better place to do it. If you continue to disavow who you are or what has gone on, how can you move forward? You're working with, a veil on the whole time.
Absolutely, and our angelic life helps us release these things. We are actually designed, human spirit is light. The soul is light, and we are designed to resonate with peace and with light. We are not these sinful, rotten, evil creatures. We will misstep.
Yes.
Sin is a Roman archery term. It means to miss the mark. We'll make mistakes, but you're not a mistake if you make one. And
that's beautiful, yes.
oh, that goes back to my mom, the school teacher. You're not a
Yes,
mistake
Mom.
if you make a mistake. So, but
Right.
you're not. And
You're also not your last failure. You're not your last success. You are you, and you continue on. There's always time to evolve, always.
oh,
Always
good heavens.
an
And
option to
hopefully
evolve.
people decide to evolve. Choose evolution is very important.
Wonderful. Oh, good. I'm glad we got that out.
Yeah.
Okay, I have my list. I put this on the back of a city parking lot receipt.
Nice. Recycle,
I know.
reuse.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
No, this was just, I wanted to ask all these things, and I kept getting these
Right on.
questions coming to me. Okay. You said that the angels are always with us.
Yes.
Is there a way to become more aware of them, or to call them when you need them, type of thing? Or is it just that you simply say, I know that you're here, please give me strength, that kind of thing? How tangible is that?
It's very tangible. And because our angels are always with us, it's not terribly necessary to call them in, but if that makes people feel more focused, that's fine. They're always there. Now, keeping in mind, angels are multitaskers. So at the same time that they're helping us, they're helping a bunch of other things, beings, doing all kinds of other things. I mean, they're pretty amazing like that. When we want to feel our angelic life, focus on the peace that is capable of being felt. It is the peace that comes through us. That is the creation, that is Creator, that is God. And to do that, it's kind of difficult. It's a Yoda mind trick. It's not a trick. It's a Yoda mind exercise. We must remove the ego in order to do that. So if I'm freaking out about something and I say, okay, where are my angels? Where are my angels? Calm down. Calm the mind. Calm the self. When you calm, angels sort of come through like this. They sort of sound like the computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And that computer was creepy, but your angels are not. And there is this very calm voice that comes in. And they do. They will ask you the most calm, strange questions. And they'll speak to you in questions so you'll answer yourself, almost like a therapist. They'll say, do you not find that you are protected? Do you truly believe that there is nothing there for you? Because it is our awareness that releases us from pain. So when you're dead quiet and freaking out and say, okay, you know what? And you hear these little questions coming through, you say, you know what, angels, help me out. Those little, very calm voices are your angelic life, inspiring you to think past your obstacle.
Oh, wonderful.
Or feel past your obstacle.
In trauma work, it's very, you cannot do trauma work if you're in sympathetic nervous system arousal is fight or flight or freeze. And if I'm remembering something traumatic, my higher functions are not online because I'm in sympathetic nervous system activation. I'm like this.
Right.
And when I work with someone in trauma, I'm continually saying, okay, can you relax your shoulders? Can you be present here with me now? And finding them, allowing them to ground down into parasympathetic state. And that's almost the same thing with the angels that you're talking about. If I'm freaking out and I'm trying to call the angels, maybe I'm not giving off enough of a signal, or however you want to say it in your manner.
Sure.
But I'm not. You need to be calm to work within chaos.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's what they do. They want to make sure that to calm the person so that the person may make very intelligent decisions for themselves. Now, there's emotional intelligence, and angels are highly intellectual creatures, but they also work with emotional intelligence, which for us happens to work a lot more with how we feel, and that's where our spirit guides come in. Because again, angels aren't people. It just either is or it isn't. They don't have the need to learn through contrast. The human species is the only species I've run into to date that feels the need to learn through contrast. I will be the worst person possible to learn. That doesn't work for me. I will drink myself into a coma to learn I don't need to be an alcoholic. That is actually indigenous to human beings, not off-worlders, not animals, not angelic life, people.
And off-worlders, I wanted to ask you about off-worlders too,
Awesome.
and how that works with spirituality, but I'm afraid, again, we are out of time. We could talk forever. This was fantastic. I appreciate it so much.
You are welcome.
Thank you. Maybe we'll get you back for a part 3 or something.
Whenever you want to come on, I would love to talk about off-worlders, because Ezekiel saw a wheel way in the middle of the air.
Oh my goodness, and we have to go. All right, thank you. I'd love to thank Danielle Egnew again. Thank you so much. It's
You are
wonderful to have you
welcome.
here. Thanks for watching the Deb Mae Show. I will try to get Danielle on again, and be well, be healthy, and don't give up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never give up.
Never give up.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Part 3 coming up.